You ever see someone so sure of themselves, so smug that you'd swear up and down they could talk their way out of anything? That's exactly what I thought about Karen Wilkins. Right up until the afternoon she opened her door and saw two cops standing on her fancy front porch. One of them holding up a tiny blinking device and asking, "Yours," while behind her in that spotless foyer was a neat stack of unopened Amazon boxes sitting there like a silent jury. Man, the look on her face was something I'll never forget, not as long as I live. You know what I mean? She went from queen of the cul-de-sac to a deer in the headlights in about 2 seconds flat. But hey, let me back up a second because getting to that moment was one heck of a ride. I'd moved into Oakwood Estates maybe 8 months before all this happened, figuring it'd be a quiet place to work from home. Just a basic software engineer looking for a little peace. Everything out here looks the same. Manicured lawns, mailboxes lined up like little soldiers' rules for everything from your grass height to the shade of your front door. I'd heard about HOAs before, but never had the pleasure, you know. Anyway, Karen was president, had been for 5 years, and she ruled the place with an iron fist and a color-coded binder barking out violations like a traffic cop. I kept my head down, trimmed my grass, minded my own business. It was fine. Until it wasn't. The trouble started maybe 3 months in. Packages started disappearing from my porch. Not everyone, but enough that I started questioning my own sanity. Amazon would ping me package delivered, I'd get home an hour later, and nothing. At first I figured maybe porch pirates were a thing out here too. Called Amazon, they checked their end, showed me photos of my packages sitting right on my welcome mat. The lady on the line was sympathetic, told me porch theft was getting bold these days, but all she could offer was a refund or a replacement. Still, 5 packages later, I was starting to feel like maybe I was the problem. I brought it up at the HOA meeting thinking I'd get some help. There's Karen at the head of the table, her glasses perched at just the right angle, looking down her nose at me like I was wasting her time. "We don't have theft issues here," she announced, barely glancing up from her notes. "Perhaps you should collect your deliveries promptly as our covenants require." She smiled, but it never reached her eyes. That's when I realized I wasn't just being ignored, I was being singled out. Didn't sit right with me. That night I got out my toolbox and installed a little camera above my door. Nothing too obvious, just enough to catch someone if they tried something funny. Called my buddy Mark, who works in security. He listened to my story and just said, "You don't have a porch pirate. You've got a neighbor problem. Let's catch him." We hatched a plan. Mark set up a decoy Amazon box, slid a tiny GPS tracker inside, and we waited. Next delivery came at 3:14 p.m., a cheap Bluetooth speaker. I was stuck in a Zoom meeting but kept my eye on the app. When I finally got to the door at 4:30, the package was gone. Camera footage. Nothing. Not a soul came up my walk after the Amazon guy left. I was stumped. Had they found my camera? Was this some pro thief? But when I checked the GPS tracker, my heart nearly stopped. The package hadn't gone far at all. Just across the street, Karen's house, 1423 Oakwood Drive. The tracker didn't lie. There it was, blinking away right inside the self-proclaimed Queen's Castle. You ever get that sick feeling in your stomach like something's just too nuts to be true? I double-checked the coordinates pinched, myself, stared at her front window. Still, I didn't march over there. Figured I needed more than just a blinking dot before accusing the HOA president. So I called the non-emergency police line, laid out the story. To my surprise, they didn't laugh me off the phone. "Mail theft's a federal crime," the officer said. "And if this is a pattern, we need to get on it. Gather your tracking data and a statement." 2 days later, Detective Rodriguez calls me up. Turns out, I wasn't the only one missing packages. Other folks in the neighborhood had called in too, but nobody had pieced it together. She asks if I'd be willing to help catch the thief in the act. "We need one more tracked delivery," she says, "and we'll be ready to move." This time I ordered a pair of hiking boots, just nice enough to be tempting, nothing too crazy. The cops loaded a tracker inside. I got my delivery notification in the early afternoon, and within an hour, boom, the package was at Karen's again. That's when the real show began. I watched from my living room window as two unmarked cruisers eased to the curb and plainclothes officers walked up to Karen's porch. One of them was holding the tracker clear as day. Even from 100 feet away, I could see Karen's face do a full rotation of emotions: confidence, confusion, panic. She tried waving her hands around, probably telling them about protecting the neighborhood, but they weren't having it. 20 minutes later, out comes Karen in handcuffs. Yeah, handcuffs. While the officers carry out box after box, still sealed and labeled. The neighbors poured out of their houses, whispering and gaping, watching their fearless leader get loaded into the back of a cruiser. I mean, talk about a plot twist, right? One of those moments where you wish you could hear the soundtrack ramp up. Detective Rodriguez finds me as they're cataloging the evidence. Turns out not only did they find all my missing stuff, they had packages for at least 8 other neighbors. Brand new, unopened, all of them tucked away in Karen's spotless entryway. She saw me standing there too, shot me a look like she could burn holes through glass. But you know what, I didn't say a word. Didn't have to. Sometimes silence says everything. That night, Rodriguez called to fill me in. Karen had been doing this for nearly a year. Her excuse was that she was preserving the neighborhood's curb appeal by removing visible packages, which sure maybe would have been believable if she'd just stored them and called people, but nope. She kept everything hundreds of dollars worth, all while fining folks for unsightly deliveries. The irony was almost too much. The police charged her with mail theft federal, by the way, several counts of petty larceny, and because the total value was over $2,000 grand theft, too. Rodriguez said Karen could be looking at up to 5 years in jail plus thousands in fines. And just like that, the woman who loved to remind everyone of the rules was facing consequences no rulebook could help her out of. Next morning, the HOA board sends out this emergency email. Karen suspended indefinitely, formal apology to the neighborhood, promises to review every violation she'd handed out. People were shocked, angry, relieved. Some even started cracking jokes about porch piracy insurance or renaming the street Karen's Cove. But beneath the laughter, there was a sense of betrayal. Nobody saw it coming. A couple weeks later, Karen goes before a judge. Half the neighborhood shows up, curiosity and popcorn in hand. Her lawyer tried spinning a story about safekeeping and misunderstanding, but nobody bought it. The prosecutor brought photos, tracking data, even receipts for stuff Karen had started using herself. The judge wasn't having any of it, set her bail at $20,000, scheduled a trial. Karen's face. I'll tell you, I've never seen fear like that on her before. All that bravado gone, replaced by the cold reality that her HOA crown didn't mean squat in front of the law. It's funny, people always talk about karma, but you rarely see it show up with flashing lights and handcuffs. The neighborhood changed after that, for sure. People started looking out for each other, more joking, less about the rules, more about community. The HOA got a lot quieter. And Karen, well, last I heard, she was still fighting her case, but even if she walked, she'd never have that power over us again. So now, when I get a package delivered, I don't rush to the door in a panic. I just smile, thinking of how things turned out. Justice for once wasn't just a word in a rulebook. It had a real face, and this time it was smiling back at me. But here's the kicker, and maybe this is what sticks with me most. Some folks started arguing about whether Karen was really evil or just a product of her own obsession with order. Was she trying to do the right thing in the wrong way, or was it always about power? Even now, there's people in the neighborhood who can't agree. Maybe there's no simple answer. So, what do you think? Was justice really served, or did the whole system just break down the minute someone with a little power decided the rules didn't apply to her? I'd love to hear what you'd do if it was your porch, your package, your community on the line. Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about what real justice looks like and whether you'd ever trust an HOA president again.